There are a lot of things wrong with this painting. Well, at least for me. And part of the problem is these watercolor washes are very light and they don't have a lot of value and they don't have a lot of oomph and color and dark and light to them. So what this was were the basically initial washes. And I don't know if you can see down here, I started adding another layer of wash with less water and more paint. And even though I signed it, oh, who cares? I can redo it again. So sometimes when your paintings look a little dull, like mine does right now, you can go in and pump them up a little bit by doing some more washes. So let's see how this turns out. I want my values to be closer to that, but I don't want to obliterate the entire underpainting that I did. So I may start with this area where these purplish blue shadows are and work from there. Well, right now what I'm doing is I've got my palette, my paint moistened. I'm holding the selfie stick in one hand in my lap. I'm trying to mix the paint in the other, and I don't know how successful I'm going to be, but just to give you guys an idea of what I do. This is burnt sienna, and I have some magenta. I like to use a lot of magenta. And then I also have some, let's see, French ultramarine blue, depending what you like to call it. Also have some sap green here. Remember, I'm holding it with one hand and painting with the other, and it is a challenge. And I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue in there to darken it, and let's see what we're going to attack next. I may just moisten this area here and there, and move back a little bit. You know, this is not easy to do with one hand. Maybe I should put my selfie stick on my forehead or my camera. The paint is pretty dry at this point, as is the paper. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to put the paint down and just manipulate it and feather it out with clean water. I don't do a lot of messing with it, but my whole goal in this is to kind of brighten these values a little bit more, give it more depth, more contrast. And again, this is a clay piece, but I also am trying to be careful not to cover up some of these lovely light washes that I have down here. Let's see, is there a little down here? Do I have a point of reference? Oh gosh, no. Why should I? That would be way too easy. I'm throwing some green up here, but I'm trying desperately not to cover up the light. There are shadows, and we're getting a little glare there. There's shadows, yes, there are, but there's also light areas. So that is a start. See, I'm trying to keep some of this light here and here and here. I'm going to step back and see if I'm happy with how this is progressing. All right, I'm looking at this tree, and it's okay. It looks different to me when I'm looking at it over the camera. It's a little bit more washed out than what you're seeing. And I did want to mention that my light is coming from this direction, so the lightest part of the tree is over here. What I'm doing is I'm just taking, it's a mechanical pencil, nothing special, had it for years. I'm kind of outlining the tree itself a little bit more to give me some guidance, kind of a road map. And if I know myself, I will not follow this. Do you ever get the, when you're working, it's like, I have great intentions of doing this, that, and the other thing, and I end up losing the great intentions. This blob here that you see is Spanish moss, which is kind of the same value or blending in. There needs to be a little bit more depth and a darker value to this to make the lightness of the Spanish moss come through. So it's a good idea for me to go in here and there and emphasize the branches and the trunk of the tree, just a bit, and I have to pay attention to it, which will be hard if I'm holding this selfie stick, but I will do the best I can. This is probably going to be a lot of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and I think magenta too. I like to mix those colors, and I have to work very, very hard to keep that light side light. I'm going to take a little bit of a mix of burnt sienna, of ultramarine blue and magenta, and like, that's not the color of a tree, no, it's not, but I do strange things. I'm throwing some burnt sienna in here, and again, remember I said burnt sienna is a red, so it's going to pump it up some. And I think I'll just, now I'm painting wet on wet, and I'm working hard. You can see that didn't dry completely. It was blending in there, but maybe that's okay. Alright, I'm just kind of testing the waters here to see if I like how that looks. It's unfortunate because the camera is not picking up all of the subtleties of the color. Rather than keeping this totally light, I'm going to do a light wash of that burnt sienna, which is a warm color. Warm colors come forward, cool colors recede. But I think it's on dry paper. There's water and paint on my brush. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Maybe play around a little bit here. I really like negative painting. I'm not getting much of a chance to do it here. I'm going to pull some of these shadows, just dry brushing over like that. Okay, that's a start. Let's see, we can think this out a little bit more and work on moving the dark values here in between the Spanish moss. I added some cadmium yellow, which is almost like an orange, to the side of the tree, and a little bit of detail with a dark mix of, let's see, I think that's ultramarine and burnt sienna. And I think now I'm going to start working on the spaces around the Spanish moss, if I can figure out where it is, because I sketched it so lightly. And again, I apologize for the camera work. It's shaky, but I'm literally sitting, I want to say brush length, which is about 8 inches away from the canvas and holding a selfie stick at the same time. And it's a little challenging, but I can do it. And let's see, let's do some darks here. I'm trying to look at the selfie stick while I'm painting, and I'm not having a lot of luck. I want to bring out the Spanish moss, and I decided I like to play with a lot of color, but on this I thought it would be better just to do something a little bit old school and just put the color in and feather it out somewhat. I hope you can see this okay. Let me pull back, and I will also try to take a look at what I've got going here. Let's see what we have on the side. I don't want to cover that Spanish moss up too much, but I also want to make sure I leave some of those lights in there. So maybe we'll throw a little bit of the cadmium yellow on top of it, as if the sunlight was hitting the top of the branch over there. And then we'll do some more dark around here. You know, watercolor is, sometimes you have to pre-plan watercolor, which can be a little annoying. And sometimes you plan it and it just doesn't quite work. What I'm doing right now is I'm putting a little bit of that cadmium yellow in there to make the top of the branches a little bit lighter, as if the sun was hitting them, because we want to remember that this is our shadowed side, and this is the side where the light is coming in. And you get a hang of this after a while. A lot of times we forget to look when we paint. We forget to really look at our subject matter. We kind of expect it to look like something because in our minds that's what we saw or we were taught that it should be. Here's some more of that cadmium yellow coming on the top of the branch. Oop, not too much, getting into that Spanish moss there. So when we look at our painting, we go, well, that doesn't look anything like my subject matter, because we kind of assumed that is the way it was supposed to look, rather than looking at our reference point. All right, let's try some stuff on this side. It's a mixture. I've got a dark mixture of alizarin crimson. I'm sorry about that quick pan. Alizarin crimson, some ultramarine blue, and I threw in some burnt sienna. I'm working back and forth between these two. All right, we're still going around some of the Spanish moss. And again, this is not anything that I plan to use in an exhibit. This is just something for me, playing around with using old paper and not letting it go to waste. I'm going to push a dab of that orange up here as if the light was hitting it. And I'm working pretty dry. I always work fairly dry. I prefer to work dry because I feel the colors are truer with watercolor. I'm going to scoosh in here a little bit more. Oh gosh, where are my branches? Where is my Spanish moss? I don't know. I'm lost. I think it's sort of like that. Okay, I'm using some more of that dark mixture on the bottom of the branch because the top of the branch, I hope, logically speaking, would have a lighter value because that is where the sunlight's hitting it. And I'm letting the light and the dark kind of blend in there. We don't want to do too much because even though this is the focal point, we don't want to overwork it because it is a loose, light piece. So what I would do is I would continue here on this side with these branches, and I'm going to do that off camera and we'll see how it turns out, and maybe pull in a little bit more up here to give the tree more form. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and come back and show you what my results were. Alrighty. Well, sort of alrighty. I've articulated those trees just a little bit more, brought them out with some more shadows on one side. I used some burnt sienna to add some light on top of the branches, again working around the Spanish moss, and still I'm not 100% happy with how it's coming out, but you could possibly see it more. It brings out the value, the darker value of the branches of the tree and the lighter ethereal look of the Spanish moss, I hope. I added some calligraphies of the branches pulling off of the side of the tree. It's looking much better than I anticipated. Now what I want to do, without, as I say to my students, killing it, is maybe bringing out some more green here and there, but not covering everything around the Spanish moss. It's a mixture of sap green and ultramarine blue, and I'm just sort of dabbing here and there. It's a little difficult for me to see where I'm going while I'm holding the selfie stick, so you'll have to bear with me. And I'm also using some lemon yellow and aureolin here and there to indicate where the light would be hitting the tops of the leaves. I'm just dabbing it. I have got a semi-moist brush and the paint on my palette is fairly flowy. kind of like loose mayonnaise, which is an odd comparison, but it seems to work. And I'm just putting some more yellow up here because the sun is hitting up here more so than down in the shadows of the branches. Always remember, if you can, that the light will hit on top and will get progressively darker in a landscape, usually. And you know, there's rules that are broken for everything. So I'm just kind of impressionistically dabbing my paint on there. I did the light areas first, and then the mixture of ultramarine blue and sap green, just here and there. I hope you can see this. And I'm not exactly thrilled with it. And yes, I use my finger a lot, or fingers. And over here, maybe some dark over here. My iPhone still wants to focus on my hand and not the paint. I don't know what we're going to do about that. We'll have to have a talk with the iPhone people. Yes, this is my hand and my paintbrush. Well, you can see I'm using a number 6 round by a company called Princeton. Not sponsored, nobody I use sponsors me, because that's just the way it goes. I'm going to try and back off a little bit so you can see what's going on, but it's difficult because the camera keeps wanting, darn it all, to focus on my hand. I'm just dabbing. I mean, some of you might be more realistic painters. I can do realism. I can sketch it and to fine detail. But again, this was supposed to be an exercise just to see what happens if we do additional washes on something. Let's see. And again, I have that focus problem. So I apologize about that. I also darkened that tree in the back. I should never have put that in the composition. And I think, pardon the jumpy camera work, I think that might do it. I'll take a picture of it. And again, this was just a little exercise to show you how I add additional washes. My favorite part of the painting are these shadows on the bottom. I really love how they came out. All shadows are not gray. Shadows pick up color from the surrounding area, from the thing it is shadowing, but I like to play with my colors a lot. The Spanish moss works out okay. I might lift it a little bit and give you a shot of what that looks like in just about a minute. I lifted the Spanish moss with just a flat brush, a wet flat brush, and ran a paper towel along it. And now I have a desire and need to articulate it more. So I have a mixture, just a dark mixture of alizarin crimson and a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of magenta. And I'm trying to catch some of the edges of the moss here and there with a very thin brush, kind of a dry brush situation. I feel if I paint the edges of the thing, it'll show up a little bit better as something other than something that looked like it was lifted but wasn't quite there. You know, sometimes I paint something and I really, there's that finger again. I really hate it. And then people will like it or buy it. And you never know what reaches out to people. Go very softly on these, the articulation of this. I don't want too much, just around the edges, dry brushing. Maybe a little bit up here, a little bit here. Seems to have a better presence than it did before. before. Let's see where else we can, emphasize this. I'm looking at my paper, I'm looking at the neighbors next door, and I'm not paying attention to where my camera is, so I'm bad. So for those of you who have stuck this out so long, thank you and bless you for your patience, because this one's been all over the place. I think that might be it. I think that, this is where, okay, I'm going to start messing, and I don't want to do that. So you can see a little bit of dry brushing here and there on the Spanish moss. The tree looks pretty well defined. I love the shadows. I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for sticking with this and how to add additional washes to a watercolor painting to bring out detail more and to keep it still loose. I think we kind of hit it. Thank you so much again for watching and for your patience, and I hope this helps you in your work. And above all, have a creative day.